You always heard different stories about depression, loneliness, and bullying, but you never hear the end of them. That's because they're long lasting. Or maybe it's because they never do end. And this is a story made into a poem about exactly that. To This Day by Shane Krazan. She was 8 years old, our first day of grade 3, when she got called ugly. We both moved to the back of the class so we could stop getting bombarded by spitballs. But the school halls were battlegrounds, and we found ourselves outnumbered day after wretched day. We always stayed inside for recess, because outside was worse. Outside, we had to rehearse running away or standing still like statues, giving no clues that we were there. In grade 5, they taped a sign on her desk that read, "Beware of dog." To this day, despite a loving husband, she doesn't think she's beautiful because of a scar that covers up a little bit less than half of her face. Kids used to say she looks like a wrong answer that someone tried to erase, but couldn't quite get the job done. And they'll never understand that she's raising 2 kids whose definition of beauty begins with the word mom, because they see your heart before they see your skin, because she's ever only always been amazing. He is a broken branch, grafted onto a different family tree, adopted, not because his family opted for a different destiny. He was 3 when he became a mixed drink of 1 part left alone and 2 parts tragedy. Started therapy in the 8th grade and had a personality made up of tests and pills. Lived like the uphills were mountains and downhills were cliffs. 4/5 suicidal and a tidal wave of antidepressants. And an adolescent being called pauper, 1 part because of the pills, 99 parts because of the cruelty. He tried to kill himself in grade 10, when a kid can still come home to mom and dad had the audacity to tell him, "Get over it." As if depression is something that could be remedied by any contents found in the first aid kit. To this day, he is a stick of TNT lit from both ends. Could describe you in detail the way the sky bends before it's about to fall. And despite an army of friends who call him an inspiration, he remains a conversation piece between people who can't understand that sometimes being drug-free has less to do with addiction and more to do with sanity. We weren't the only kids who grew up this way. To this day, kids are still being called names. The classics were "Hey Stupid" and "Hey Spaz." Seems like every school has an arsenal of nicknames made up every year. And if a kid breaks in school and no one around chooses to hear, do they make a sound? Or are they just a background from a soundtrack stuck on repeat? And people say things like kids can be cruel. Every school has a big top circus tent, and the pecking order went from acrobats to lion tamers, from clowns to carnies. All of these miles ahead of who we were. We were freaks. Bearded ladies and lobster claw boys, already juggling depression and loneliness, playing solitaire and spin the bottle, trying to kiss at wounded parts of us and heal. But at night, while others slept, we kept walking the tightrope. It was practice. And yes, some of us fell. But I want to tell them all of this are just debris left over when we finally smashed the parts of ourselves that we thought we used to be. And if you can't find anything beautiful about yourself, get a better mirror. Look a little closer. Stare a little longer. Because there's something inside you that made you keep trying, despite everyone who told you to quit. You built a cast around your broken heart and signed it yourself. They were wrong. Because maybe you didn't belong to a group or clique. Maybe they decided to pick you last for basketball or everything else. Maybe you used to bring bruises and broken teeth to show and tell. You always showed but never told, because how can you hold on to your ground if everyone around you wants to bury you beneath it? You have to believe they're wrong. They had to be wrong. Why else would we still be here? We grew up learning to cheer for the underdog because we see ourselves in them. We stemmed a root planted in the belief that we are not what we were called. We are not abandoned cars, sitting out on some empty highway. And if in some way we are, don't worry. We only got out to walk and get some gas. We are the graduating members from the class of We Made It. Not the faded echoes crying out, names will never hurt me. Of course they did. But our lives will only ever always continue to be a balancing act that has less to do with pain and more to do with beauty.